Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. We are starting a new series, really deep kind of lore dive into Vault-Tec. Obviously Vault-Tec are very important to the story of Fallout because they built all these shelters to save people in inverted commas, because as we know now, the vaults were never really meant to save anyone. So I thought I'd come back here to Vault 111 while we introduce the concept of what we're going to be talking about. So let's have a look at this poster, because so welcome home, better future, underground. They've got all their catchphrases, and they are at the heart of the series. The very first game, the very first minute of the first game, takes place in one of the vaults in Vault 13 over in California. And they've got their cheerful mascot Vault Boy, and they promise people safety and security. So by the time the bombs fell, they were one of the most powerful corporations in America, worth a lot of money, and there was a lot of investment from outside as well. So we're here in Vault 111. So what you might be wondering is how Vault-Tec actually got started. So really things kicked off in the 2050s when the beginning of mankind's downfall. So war broke out between Europe and the Middle East, which is an interesting thing to bring up just right at the time of recording this, given what's happening in that region at the moment. But there was basically a war over oil. Again, the Middle East, that's not a big surprise really, that happened. And there was a plague emerged as well, which they were struggling to kind of get under control. Again, that's something that's happened in recent memory as well. That there was this infectious disease, and that's actually how the forced evolutionary virus came about. It was an attempt to deal with that plague and to treat it for people. So that was going on and causing problems across the world, and then eventually, as tensions rose in Europe, the European Commonwealth basically collapsed. Some countries in Europe actually completely disappeared, and the United Nations ended up collapsing as well. So really the situation across the world was not great. So the US government decided to launch Project Safe House, which was where they were offering companies a contract for building shelters for the population in the event of nuclear war, because at that point people in the 2050s were really starting to be concerned about it. So that's what happened, and Vault-Tec ended up getting the contract. They built a demonstration vault near their headquarters in Los Angeles, and at least 122 vaults were commissioned, which, based on the numbers, would save less than 0.1% of the population. So, not really saving a massive number of people. There were some issues with funding, embezzlement, corruption, all that kind of stuff. The usual, corporations, especially in the Fallout universe, that happened a lot. And there were some construction delays, which you'll see in this game. When you go into Park Street Station, Vault 114 never got completed. But with a huge merchandise line, marketing campaign, Vault-Tec were able to expand across the US and build vaults in various locations, including right here near Sanctuary Hills, just north of Concord. So that was how Vault-Tec came about, and there was a big marketing campaign, and you'll see posters, you'll see merch, all these kinds of things all across the wasteland. Now, this vault that we're in just now is a bit of an unusual one because, as you can see, there's not really a lot in terms of living quarters, because the people the majority of the residents of this vault were never supposed to wake up. So we were all put in cryostasis. There's my deceased husband, and all my neighbours that are deceased as well. So that's the one thing that we do know, is that the vaults were never meant to save anyone. That was never the point. Only about 17 of the vaults that we know of were control vaults that were basically worked as people were expecting. The majority of them were involving experiments in an unknown population. The majority of vaults had some kind of experiment going on. Most of the time the population knew nothing about it. So I'm going to go into each vault that we know about in detail and show you the ones that are in the games and talk about them. But a couple of examples. So here you had an unwitting population that were put into cryostasis and basically left there. So life support offline, it's all kind of gone wrong, and we'll head to the Overseer's office to have a look at the instructions that were given to the Overseer, because I think that tells us a lot about exactly what was going on here. But for example, if you venture into Vault 106 in the Capital Wasteland, where they basically put psychoactive drugs into the air filtration system, and there's still enough of it there for you to have hallucinations. Vault 12 in Bakersfield, California, where you end up going in the first Fallout game, the blast door didn't close properly, so all the residents inside ended up becoming ghouls. Vault 75, which is here in Boston, is underneath Malden Middle School, where the children were separated, their parents were disposed of, and they were basically trained and genetically modified to become super soldiers until they overthrew the scientists and took over the vault. Then here in Vault 111, so Vault 111 is designed to test long-term effects of suspended animation on unaware human subjects. Your staff will be on short-term assignment to monitor basic cardiopulmonary and cognitive functions. Long-term monitoring will be handled remotely by Vault-Tec technicians. Under no circumstances suspension to be disrupted. This includes the administration of life-saving measures. Your staff is also considered expendable. Insubordination or attempts to evacuate prematurely are capital violations. Unused cryogenic pods are the preferred method for cadaver disposal. So yeah, basically anybody that didn't do what they were told would be killed and their corpse frozen. So that's lovely. And then we've got the operations protocols. So this tells you what happens. So on the activation notice from Vault-Tec, so basically when they knew the nukes were coming, all personnel are required to report to the entry area and assist with admittance of Vault residents. Security personnel will maintain order and ensure that no personnel or residents attempt to evacuate the vault. Research staff will be responsible for resident intake and escort each to the designated cryogenic pod. Residents not accounted for in the manifest should be asked to step aside and detained forcefully by security if necessary. Once all residents have been sealed into the preservation chambers, dispose of any detainees, i.e. kill them. Vault entry must remain sealed under any circumstances. So staff duties. So your science staff must daily monitor the vital signs of the cryogenically preserved residents, cardiopulmonary and cognitive activity in particular. So cardiopulmonary, if you don't know, is sort of heart and lungs. So that's, heart rate, blood pressure, oxygenation level. So making sure that that's still working, and cognitive is to do with the kind of brain function and things. So that has to be recorded hourly. Life-saving intervention is only permitted if more than 80% of the resident population has perished while in cryogenic suspension and must not interrupt suspension. So if anything was going wrong, they could not intervene to save lives unless more than 80% of the residents had already died, and even though even so they weren't supposed to interrupt the suspension, and they were allowed to do independent research, and the overseer would be able to kind of approve projects. Security, monitoring for signs of intrusion, checking for leaks, settling disputes among personnel, and enforcing regulations from the overseer and from Vault-Tec. And then facility services, so they would have had some, basically instead of actually having staff to do that, they expected the other personnel to do that, and the overseer would decide who did what in terms of cleaning and food preparation and whatnot. And then all clear and evacuation. So this is an interesting bit because this does tell us, this is a big hint about Vault-Tec's intentions. So that's the one thing about what Vault-Tec want, and Vault-Tec essentially wanted to be the future of humanity. They wanted to be in charge of the post-war world. They did have connections to the Enclave and CIT, that obviously both those organisations could remote access some Vault-Tec systems, but as we'll see here, overseers were generally instructed to only accept orders from Vault-Tec. So following a nuclear event, Vault-Tec will monitor hazards such as radiation levels, enemy invasion, subsequent attacks and other factors. Once conditions are deemed safe, this terminal will receive an all-clear notice. Upon receiving the all-clear notice, Vault-Tec personnel may be evacuated at overseer discretion. Disregard any notices from organisations or individuals not associated with Vault-Tec, including government and military. So don't listen to anybody else on the outside if it's not Vault-Tec, even somebody claiming to be the government or military. The residents are not to be disrupted or evacuated. Vault-Tec will attend to their needs remotely once Vault 111 has evacuated. So they are very, very clear. Even somebody claiming to be the government, which is what the Enclave are. The Enclave are formed from what was left of the US government, and the Brotherhood of SEAL is what came from the remnants of the US military. But Vault-Tec were like, no, we're calling the shots. You do what we say, you don't do what anybody else says, no matter what kind of authority they claim to be. You listen to Vault-Tec, and that's it. So that's something that has been made very clear in the TV show as well, which I'll keep for now to avoid spoilers in case there is anybody that's not actually watched it yet, but that's something that is clarified about Vault-Tec's intentions, that they were going to be the ones in charge, and that's what the whole theme of the Fallout games is about what the future of the world is after this apocalypse, what the future of humanity looks like after this apocalypse, and all the conflicts are really over who gets to be in charge and who gets to be calling the shots, as society attempts to rebuild itself, and clearly Vault-Tec saw themselves as being in that position, and that's what they want. But I say I'll talk about the stuff in the TV show at a later date, just to avoid spoilers until it's been out a wee bit longer for people that maybe want to watch it. But I'm hoping that this series is going to be useful for people that have watched the TV show and maybe never played the games or don't really want to play the games, but want to learn a bit more about the background, because there's just so much that I could talk about, and there's so much to dig into in this game series. But it's clear from this that Vault-Tec are in charge, and that's what they're expecting. So if there's no all clear message, then the overseer can elect to evacuate after a shelter period of 180 days, and should not evacuate during that period of time unless Vault-Tec tells them it's safe to do so. But 180 days is really, it's like 6 months. It's not a long time. Certainly given the radiation that's out there, and we can kind of see from here that when things kind of went to pot. So preparations, this is the overseer's kind of log, really. So he's like, yep, final orientation is complete. Almost all the residents have been enrolled and sorted. And the Vault-Tec supervisors did a technical review, so the vault's ready. And at this point, the overseer seems quite positive, and he's thinking about, you know, I can only imagine what wonders the residents will get to see leaping forward in time. Almost wish I could join them and see the promise of our future realised. So he's like, oh yeah, that's once this nasty war is over and done with, you know, Vault-Tec are going to build a utopia, and these people are going to be frozen for a few hundred years and then get to see the amazing future. So interesting take there. And then October 23rd, obviously we know that date, by this point that's the day the bombs fell. It's happened. We're lucky most of the staff were nearby when the early warning came through. Less noticed than expected, but only Lord Hagen was missing. That's a bit too far away from here potentially. Everything kind of went smoothly with the residents, and he was worried that people might be suspicious of the decontamination pods, as they told the residents, but it happened too fast, so people were too upset to really ask any questions about it. So that, and then systems malfunction, so they had an issue with pod C3, heart palpitations, so fast heart rate, but they thought it was unusual, and they almost were too late in realising that she was starting to thaw out and wake up, and he thought it was maybe an errant signal from Vault-Tec's remote systems, but we don't really know. And then supplies running low, so getting towards the end of 180 days, the mandatory shelter period, and the supplies they had were never really meant to last much longer than that. And people are beginning to ask questions, and he's like, well, you know, if after 180 days, if people think we can just leave the vault, because the radiation's still going to be bad up there, and the whole point is to get additional instructions from Vault-Tec, and he doesn't really know what to do. He can't risk opening the vault because he knows that people are going to get affected by the radiation, but supplies are a problem, food's running low, and people are starting to get a bit restless and a bit kind of suspicious, and it almost makes you wonder if the real experiment was seeing how these people, the research staff and the security staff, are going to cope when they are running out of supplies and it's not safe to leave the vault, and what's going to happen. And unfortunately the outcome is that basically everybody's dead, so mutiny. So the overseer, security personnel have turned on me, demanding to be allowed to leave the vault. I will not open the door to be irradiated to death out there. So he's just let them taking all the supplies, putting the staff on lockdown, have to prioritise who deserves what little food we have left. I've been too damn generous with the rations. If people don't like it, well, that's fewer mouths to feed. So quite a turn there, that he's just like, well, I'm in charge, I'm just going to decide who gets the food and who doesn't get the food, and if they don't like it, then they just don't get anything.
Hope you enjoyed that last number.
And then, of course, as you are leaving the vault, you're finding skeletons.
Oh God.
This even after, this is one of my first characters actually, one of my first playthroughs of Fallout 4 on PC, so you know, we're level 77, we've finished the game with the Brotherhood ending and all the rest of it, but still like, oh my god, the skeleton. But yeah, you can see things didn't really go well in the end, and pretty much everybody ended up dead, and that's why you're the sole survivor. And it's really, really interesting because this isn't a unique situation. This is just one of many vaults across the wasteland where everything just went to hell. And working for Vault-Tec wasn't always a great great thing. They weren't the best company to work with. I mean, none of the big corporations in the Fallout world are really great in terms of workers' rights and that kind of thing. But there is stuff that happens within the Vault-Tec company. So we're going to head now to the Vault-Tec Regional Headquarters. Main headquarters are in LA and back in California. But they do have a regional headquarters here in Boston, and it's in Beacon Hill. But yeah, welcome to Vault-Tec's regional headquarters, complete with you know, proper skeleton decals and propaganda posters. Cleanliness is next to godliness, says Vault Boy. Yeah, it's not in great shape. But we are going to learn the story today of a man called Martin Reid. Who? Oh, there is ghouls. Oh! Okay, maybe being a bit too casual about this, but never mind.
We owe her our lives. So if you're out there worried about disappearing in the middle of the night or having your loved ones
apparently there's
replaced
something
by
that I want
robots,
in there. Okay.
new day is dawning for Diamond City, folks. Hell, for the whole Commonwealth. Let's make the most of it. The next one is
Okay, so there is. Oops.
by Louis
No,
Jordan.
I did not mean to do that. Anyway, let's have a look around here. So, yeah, I'm going to tell the story of a man named Martin Reid who worked for Vault-Tec and had some concerns about things that he had discovered. So we're going to head upstairs. Okay, that's good. Yeah, there will be random pop-up notifications like that telling me, oh, you need to go and do this, and so-and-so's under attack and whatnot. Not interested. No point in doing any more Minutemen side quests anyway, because Preston hates me because I became a raider at Nuka World, but I wanted to see what would happen. Oh, Wonder Glue, I'll always take Wonder Glue though. Yeah, got some fancy modern art on the floor. Oh, hi. Yeah, so I guess this must have been like a meeting room or training room or something. Oh, fusion cells, yes please. Desk fan, absolutely. Never turn down a free desk fan in this game. But yes, this would have been like a training room or something probably. So that's not what we're looking for. Oh, here we go, working terminal. That's what we're looking for. Right. Dr. Reid's terminal. That's exactly whose terminal we're looking for. But also, I'm gonna take his desk fan. He's dead, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, so Martin Reid's personal logs here. So first one's 29th of September. So we just shipped 15 cases of Psycho and Jet to Vault 95, and I know a lot of people have strong feelings about the Jet. I do agree, it seems like the story of the origin of that has kind of been changed, but regardless, chems have been sent to Vault 95. Of course, that makes total sense. Let's give these addicts more of what put them in this situation to begin with. Davidson says it's to force them to make the hard choice. Chems are getting clean. I say it's to cause a bloodbath. Accidental foreshadowing. That's exactly what happened. So, yeah, he's just kind of saying this is a bit of a red flag here. So the premise of Vault 95 is that it was going to be filled with addicts, and they were going to put them through this really kind of hardcore detox rehab kind of situation. And he's like, okay, fair enough, but why have we just shipped 15 cases of Psycho Inject to Vault 95? That makes no sense. And as you would learn when you go to that vault, is that was entirely deliberate, because Vault-Tec planted somebody who, after a few years, was going to magically find these chems. So that's given these people a few years to kind of get clean and go through rehab and all the rest of it, and then find these chems and then see what happens. So that was the experiment in Vault 95, and he's just kind of like, this is really weird, and he's questioned it, and that's the answer that he's been given, and he doesn't agree with it. So Martin Reid is definitely getting a bit questioning things a little bit. And then, so 7th of October, Walter in the warehouse just told me we received a massive shipment marked Vault 111, do not open. So he opened it, and it was hundreds of gallons of liquid nitrogen. What could they possibly need that for? And as we've just seen, Vault 111 was where everybody was cryogenically frozen, so that's obviously what they needed the liquid nitrogen for. So again, he's just like, that's really, really strange. What's that all about? And then the 22nd of October, he's like, that's it, I've had enough. I can't work under a manager who's so oblivious to what's going on around him. These vaults are supposed to be a safe haven for these people, not a lab to run experiments on them. Clearly, this guy doesn't really know who he's working for. Davidson still doesn't see it, or he's just ignoring it. Either way, I'm putting in my 2 weeks in the morning. Unfortunately, we don't actually know if he got that far, because 22nd of October was when he wrote this. So maybe he managed to get the resignation letter in before everything went to hell. Who knows? But yeah, so that is Martin Reid's kind of viewpoint and position on things. This is a bathroom. That's a nice painting with a boat. The stairs up. I don't think there's a working terminal in here. Not just some Vault-Tec calendars. Still forever stuck on October 2077. So I've got to next level. Be careful, there are holes in the floor. I should probably get the gun out again, because there's probably going to be ghouls around as well. Telephone. Oh, stuck on a chair. The pool table's starting to fall through the floor. Got ourselves another terminal and another desk fan. Oh, sealed one, they're glue, nice and fancy. So if the ghouls have respawned since I was last in here, then obviously most of the loot will have done as well, which is always a good. Oh. Anyway, Mr. Davidson, so that's who our pal Martin Reid was talking about. So this is Martin Reid's boss's terminal and his personal log. So 2nd of October. I believe Dr. Reid is under the impression that the vaults in the Boston area will be used to harm its future residents instead of help them. I told him he's just being paranoid. Vault-Tec would never do anything of the sort.
It was evidently pretty serious.
Somebody's been drinking the
all
Kool-Aid.
empathize with what they're going through.
And then
I have
13th of
seen
October,
reports
this
of
one here,
fatalities,
we will get
but
back
my
to
understanding
this
is that things
here.
now
Shannon
under
spilled
control.
coffee on my new shirt while we were in the lounge this morning. I told her it was fine and we had a good laugh
All day
about it,
one, don't
about the
worry.
whole thing. If
They're
she does it again,
probably
I will
not
stab her in the
dangerous.
effing throat
Cold
with my
border
pen.
folks,
She's a good kid.
know 'em, you love 'em, and I guarantee the
So,
songs will get stuck in your heads.
kind of indicating that maybe Frank Davidson is a little bit volatile, let's say. So 19th of October, so this is obviously after Martin Reid maybe asked them about all liquid nitrogen or something. So Dr. Reid is beginning to get on my nerves. All he talks about now is theories on how the vaults were built to run experiments on people and not actually help them at all. I keep telling him that he couldn't be more wrong. If he keeps it up, I might have to discipline him. And the ellipses there's an interesting choice. But take note of this comment about Sharon, that if she does it again I'll stab her in the throat with my pen, because we'll get back to that conversation, unfortunately for Sharon. Anyway, that's a bit weird. Find his way up. Well, I guess that's all the up there is. Okay, but there is an elevator. So we're going to take the elevator down to the basement now. Which can't remember. Sure. Oh, something alive in here. So yeah, you got your liquid nitrogen dispensers. And some of the Vault-Tec storage crates that you see everywhere. There you are. And even there. Yep, so again, stacks of stuff. I wonder if some of this was stuff that was intended for Vault 114, but it didn't get finished. But I remember we were talking about the Sharon and how that Mr. Davidson wanted to stab her with a pen. Well, look what we've got here. We've got a skeleton hidden away in the basement with a pen beside it. So it seems that Sharon did spill coffee again and he followed through on what he said. So we can reasonably guess that that's probably Sharon's body there. Excuse me? Oh. Okay. Oh, there you come out after you did. She gets stuck in the dirt. Interesting. Fallout. There's always going to be random glitches. But yeah, so this obviously is just like a sort of storage and shipping space for stuff for the local vaults. Vault-Tec will be there. Yeah, worship your new god. Fancy chairs, fancy thrones, very shiny toilets. Don't know if I would trust a toilet that shiny, to be honest. But yeah, so we can clearly see that, you know, that's one thing that, you know, this guy thinks, oh yeah, we're building these vaults, we're going to save all these people and it's going to be great. And it clearly isn't so, and as soon as he starts questioning things, he was threatened with disciplinary action. So look, so this is Walter. So this is the guy that told our pal Martin Reid about the liquid nitrogen.
I'm in.
Cool. So, 15th. I think Mr. Davidson has been getting annoyed with Martin lately. I told Martin he should probably back off a bit because I know Mr. Davidson has a temper, as we saw. So I'm breaking Pilkey over Roger's head because he stood too close to the table when Mr. Davidson was taking his shot. Roger still has trouble with the hearing in his right ear. So yeah, clearly this guy has quite a hot temper and a violent disposition. So, you know, in 19th of October, I miss Sharon. She's been out for a couple of days and it's just not the same here without her. No one upstairs has heard from her. I'm starting to worry. Getting to see her face when I go upstairs for lunch was the highlight of my day. I'm guessing he didn't notice the body that was hidden there, but then again, there's still, if there's some liquid nitrogen, it could be that he used that to make sure that there's a mini nuke in the toilet next to a plunger. I love this. It's obviously the developers have just had so much fun with some random like set dressing things, but that one's good. Obviously somebody's must have clogged this toilet up pretty badly to require a mini nuke to clear it, so there you go. But yeah, so we can see from this that Martin Reid was starting to ask questions and starting to say, hang on a minute, this doesn't seem right. Is this all just an experiment? And he's been told, no, it's everything's fine, you know, you're imagining it, you know, he's been gaslit into kind of letting it go, but and then eventually gets to the point where he's just like, no, this is ridiculous, I'm not going to be a part of this, and plans to hand in his notice on the 23rd of October 2077. So unfortunately he didn't even get to he probably didn't actually get round to doing that before he, well, who knows, I mean, we can't even assume that all Vault-Tec employees are going to have a place in the vault, because at the beginning of this game, you see when you're running to the vault after you see the news and realise that the bombs are coming, the Vault-Tec rep is at the gate shouting to be let in, but he's not on the list, so he's not able to go in, so he doesn't get to go into the vault, even though he is Vault-Tec, as he says, and he has worked for them. So, you know, working for Vault-Tec, but particularly I guess as a sales rep, didn't guarantee a place in the vaults. I'm just talking over the loading screen here. It just seems to have got worse. I don't know if it's just because of all the Creation Club content that they've added, but it's very slow to load. But and you know, you can speak to well, the Vault-Tec rep, he doesn't die, at least if you don't know this. He becomes a ghoul, so you can find him in Good Neighbour, and you can actually get him to come to one of your settlements where he ends up being a really good. So if you assign him to a store, he becomes a level 4 store. There's a few NPCs that you can do that with, and he's one of them. But you know, he didn't get a place in any of the vaults, so he was just left to fend for himself, even though
Hope you enjoyed that
he's
last
worked
number.
for this company. So, you know, Vault-Tec didn't even necessarily take care of all of their own. Presumably it was only if you were
Here's a strange state of affairs for
important
you.
enough, and maybe then you would get into
Some
one
or
of the
all
good
of you may
ones.
have heard of the old Parsons Asylum in the Northeast. You may also have known.
So
Stay away from
it's
it.
quite
I guess no one
interesting.
told a group of
It's quite
readers about that.
interesting.
Worse, they attacked it recently.
To see that,
I
and I
think
say
that
the
might
thing
be
about
the
it is
place
that we
just
saw in Vault
overflowing with
111
raving
and in other places that
but you'd be wrong. It's
Vault-Tec are supposed to be
empty. A
remotely
man living
monitoring
there. Now you could assume
the
they
residents
got what they wanted
after
and bolted.
the
But given how creepy that
scientists and
place
things
was,
were evacuated.
can't help but wonder.
And we don't know if they were doing that. We know that the Institute could remotely access the vault systems, because that's how you
How
get
about some
out,
Billie Holiday,
is
folks?
because
This here is crazy, he called
the
it.
Institute father and the Institute lets you out of your pod. I mean, that is a whole other thing that I'll get into when we get into the story of Fallout 4, because I have got a lot to say about Fallout 4 story. Not all of it is positive. I do love this game, but there's certainly some aspects of the main story that I do have a bit of a problem with. So that's something that I will get into down the road. But to kind of finish this off, I think knowing a wee bit more about what it's like to work for Vault-Tec, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to work my way through some of the, well, I'm going to work my way through the vaults, all of the vaults, and then we'll get into maybe a bit more about where Vault-Tec are now, but just to show more about working for Vault-Tec. So even if you were in the research team and a scientist, it didn't mean that you were safe. So for that, we're going to head to Nuka World, which has been, I've basically sort of completed the DLC for the most part. So this should be reasonably safe, because
But if you can do the job, they'll take care of you. I'm not much for conversation.
okay. These terminals.
Just wanted to see. No hurt you. All right.
Oh, Harvey, yeah, that's the guy that lures you here at the, what do you call it, the train station. Right, so where we actually want to go is Vault-Tec Amongst the Stars. So this is in the space themed section of the park. Because again, we're talking about these massive corporations and how they were all kind of involved, and there was a lot of deals and under the table deals and things like that, investments. So Vault-Tec made a significant investment here to have their own attraction. Because what they wanted to promote, and what possibly was the end goal of the Vault-Tec experiments and things, was to colonize other planets, which is something that sometimes people talk about. You know, there are games about that, like Avon Connolly and Colony, even, and Planet Base, and what's that one? the one where you go to Mars and you set up robots and things before you bring people. But you know, there's a lot of these kinds of games about going and colonising other planets and figuring out how we would do that. Because we humans have quite specific needs in the environment that we live in, like oxygen and water and food and heat and things. So you know, a lot of planets don't really kind of accommodate that. So certainly this is what Vault-Tec seem to be pushing, is that their kind of modular building kind of systems for the vaults could be used in space and on planets and things. So this is their yeah. So hopefully nobody gets too motion sick from this. But yeah, we're gonna seek adventure among the stars. Say that does hurt my eyes a little bit.
Arcturus Prime, a frontier colony in the year 2291. Baked by the unrelenting sun, life on the surface of this remote, desolate world is all but impossible.
I think he's supposed to be wearing a spacesuit, but I've already taken them all for the hapologists. Possibly that mannequin was also wearing a spacesuit at one point, but yeah, the mannequins are so creepy. They are so creepy. I mean, I think they're just creepy in general, and I do own one.
But life is possible underground.
Underground.
Welcome to Vault-Tec's colony Arcturus. Welcome home.
Welcome home. So I'm going through your typical
With Vault-Tec's modular construction,
vault door
new colonies can be established on almost any world in a matter of weeks.
in a matter of weeks. So that thing is the kind of plug and play that they could just build. And do you see that? Vision going a bit fuzzy. So not only were Vault-Tec doing experiments on the residents in the vaults, they were doing experiments on park attendees, so brainwave interference intelligence -1. So yeah, these that were like the kind of rad detectors when you went into the vault. So now they're just pumping you full of zeta waves. Very sneaky. Yeah, there's fake doors that don't go anywhere here. And then another naked mannequin. But yeah, so you get sent in here to collect spacesuits for the hapologists. They also like to do weird experiments to irradiate you.
These are no dark bunkers.
Yeah.
Your colony will feature beautiful, expansive commons where you can relax in an Earth-like setting.
Earth-like setting, which, you know, everything's collapsed, the trees are all dead, and the mannequins are also dead. But yeah, again, they're just like, yeah, we can keep humanity alive. Fake doors. But there's more questionable stuff happens. There's like backstage areas to this.
Step into your spacious
See.
private suite, equipped with all the comforts of home.
My brain's going fuzzy again. Subliminal suggestions, charisma -1. I will turn off the... I can hear that there's some weird noises in the background here. So we get a bit more explanation of aluminum. So, yep. We have a skeleton wearing a Vault-Tec lab suit and project lead terminal. L. Bateman. So, project consumer guidance, authorised personnel only. So this is the all the experiments. So experiment 1, brainwave disruption, use of radiation scrubbers in the exhibit to emit an electromagnetic field that causes interference in the brainwave patterns of human subjects. Expected results, minor loss of motor control, temporary stupor and forgetfulness. Lovely. Experiment 2, subliminal suggestions. Use of audio emitters to generate varying degrees of subliminal suggestions overlaid with a specific frequency, which is possibly why the battle dramatic music is happening, I'm not sure. Expected results, acceptance of suggestions causing subjects to perform involuntary actions, headaches, depression or other phenomena resulting from neurochemical release. So neurochemical would be like neurotransmitters, so things like dopamine, serotonin or adrenaline, that can change people's kind of mood and behaviours and things like that. So yeah. And then experiment 3, hypnotic pheromones. I'm not 100% sure that's how you spell pheromones. Anyway, use of genetic modification on flora. So plants to release a pheromone-like airborne toxin, which will be inhaled when passing by the emitters. Expected results, loss of independent thought, minor addiction, susceptibility to suggestion. So it's all about controlling people basically. So very dodgy. And then experiment 4, that's the radiation one, theta radiation. Use of reactor modification to emit theta band radiation in low short doses. Expected results, drowsiness, extreme fatigue, potential paranoia from sleep deprivation. So people really tired and potentially not being able to sleep, which is really not good for you. And actually you would die from not sleeping quicker than you would die from not eating, because it really does bad things to your brain. Like if you didn't sleep at all for like a week, I mean 4 days, and people would be hallucinating and stuff from not sleeping. But here's the clinch for the lab boys that are working in this attraction. Long-term testing. So obviously visitors, you're only going to see results for a short period of time while they're in the exhibit, but for the guys that work here, they want to see what the long-term effects of exposure to these things are, so they're actually being used on the other the lab assistants basically, which surprise has disastrous results. So if this was the lead guy, Bateman, he did not fare well. He ended up dead. I can't remember if it's explicitly told what happens to him. But yeah, all the home comforts, including empty dish, a dish rag, empty Nuka Cola bottles, and you hear that? There's the theta radiation. The mannequins are just positioned in the most creepy locations as well. But yeah, so that's the thing. They modified the reactors to produce extra radiation, so that's fun. Yep, and there's your so let's see how my stats are doing now. So, yep, agility -1, perception -1. So, it is at least only temporary. But yeah, so you know, they're showing off. They've got like gardens, hydroponics. Because that, again, that's something that, whether it's underground or in space, people need food.
Step into your spacious
Yep.
private suite with all the comforts of home.
Yeah, washing machines and beds. Jangles the Moon Monkey. Nice. More skeletons here. So, yeah, we can get a wee bit more information about what else happened. More skeletons. Ah, yeah, this is the lower level of that room. It doesn't actually go anywhere. Operations terminal, let's see. So, J. Hodgson, Operations Engineer, Journal Entry 16th of January 2077. Americans have such a weird date system, it's very confusing. My first day on the job here at Vault-Tec exhibit, never thought they'd let me work in Nuka World. I mean, you could hardly call this a job. All I have to do is make sure the exhibit doesn't fall apart, all the techs are happy, and sometimes conduct a tour or two. Plus, I'm getting paid double what I made at the Washington DC office. One of the guys working at Nuka Galaxy said they give free rides to the employees after the park closes, so I'll probably head over and check it out. 19th of February, so he seems to update once a month. Had a scare when this old guy collapsed after walking through the exhibit. I thought he might have had a heart attack, but Dr. Bateman said that it was just heat stroke. I thought that was a weird excuse because we keep the exhibit at a constant 72 degrees. Maybe that's too hot for old folks. I'll bring it up at the next staff meeting. So there we go, this already happening. You know, this elderly man collapsed and he's like, oh no, it's just heat stroke, when the place is presumably air conditioned to keep it at 72. Also, it's February, so like February on the east coast of America, it's not going to be that warm. So it's quite a flimsy excuse. But and then we've got 20th of April. Another really strange day. Dr. Bateman locked himself out of the observation room again. I told him to put a spare key in his locker so he wouldn't forget it next time. He brushed me off and left the room. I don't know why, but the whole interaction made me really, really angry. A few minutes later I had a bad headache. Maybe something's wrong with the filtered air system. So yeah, basically he had an interaction and he was just really angry and he's not sure why he was so angry. So slight change in mood and emotion. The hell's going on around here? I don't know if somebody's messing with my terminal or if I'm losing my mind. I don't remember making that last journal entry about getting angry or having a headache. I've been fine for weeks. So loss of memory as well, that he's written that, or somebody else wrote it to mess with him, but it seems more likely that some of the things are interfering with this guy's memory as well. Just a few minutes ago, Dr. Bateman came through and out of nowhere. I said he should really stop drinking on the job. I do smell a little bit like whiskey, but I don't remember drinking any. Maybe I need a vacation or a doctor's appointment. So again, this guy, he's like, oh, I can smell whiskey, but I don't remember drinking any alcohol, and he's been told that he shouldn't be drinking alcohol while he's on the job. So yeah, this guy's just like, there's some weird things happening here. That was one I just read. And then 30th of May, Alright, I've had enough of this. A lady just went nuts and ran out of the exhibit screaming. The day before that, some guy took off all his clothes for no reason and acted like he didn't have a care in the world until security dragged him away. I keep getting nosebleeds and headaches. I'm constantly forgetting things I've done and misplacing stuff I shouldn't be losing. Dr. Braitman says he thinks it has something to do with stress or new job anxiety, but come on, nosebleeds and memory loss from job anxiety, really? It is, I mean, stress can do damage to the body, no doubt about it, but it does seem quite strange. So again, we've got somebody here that's questioning things, and it's just like, I've been feeling really weird, and weird things are happening to my memory, and then we come in to find these two. So these guys are also wearing Vault-Tec lab coats. So I've got experiment 4, observation terminal, and experiment 2. So sorry, I've just kicked your skeleton out the way. So daily observation. Tech ratcheted up the frequency in the subliminal suggestion emitters a few notches yesterday, and we're checking out the effect. Honestly, can't see an appreciable difference. We're using the blue grade holotape suggestions, so simple stuff like take off your hat, you've got an itch on your nose, blink your eyes a few times, stuff like that. So blue grade, obviously stuff that's going to be quite harmless. Frequency boost was supposed to widen the spectrum and grab more people, but I'm counting the same numbers over the last 6 hours. I might try the orange grade holotapes tomorrow. So he's like, okay. So orange grade holotape suggestions really did the trick. The more apprehensive the subject is to the suggestion, the more susceptible they are to the emitted frequency. Doesn't make sense to me, but Dr. Bateman seems to think it's something to do with the subject's fight or flight response tendencies. So that's your autonomic nervous system, adrenaline and things. So when you feel like you're in danger, or you feel like something's wrong, that's your fight or flight system. So low grade suggestion is made, the fight or flight doesn't need to kick in, so no chemicals are released into the body like adrenaline. The tone we play with suggestions from the emitter causes endorphin release. So Dr. Braitman thinks that releasing endorphins and adrenaline at the same time is having some sort of chemical effect that's making the subject unconsciously eager to have more, almost like a drug addiction. So yeah, endorphins are the body's natural, they kind of work like opiates and boosting mood and relieving pain and things like that. So it's certainly something that can be addictive, and probably involving dopamine release as well, which is the reward chemical. Went a bit too far with the orange grade stuff today. I'm pretty sure the shove the visitor in front of you suggestion got through to this lady, and she did exactly that. Unfortunately, the other lady she shoved wasn't so forgiving, and they had a fist fight. Had to hit the alarm and security pulled them out. Dr. Bateman just told me to go with the blue grade for a while until things calm down, maybe a few days at most. To tell you the truth, I'm glad to make the switch. The orange grade stuff kind of scares me. Come to think of it, what scares me more is that we have red grade holotapes too. We've never used them, and I hope we never will. So yeah, we've obviously got different grades of kind of the sort of subliminal suggestions. So blue stuff is harmless, the orange stuff is potentially harmful, or certainly more extreme and more noticeable, and red grade potentially really serious. So he's a bit like, yeah, I don't feel good about doing this, but he's been on the blue grade for a week and he's bored. And then he switches back to the orange grade because he got bored of the harmless stuff. He says he thought he would try it for a little while and see. Best hour of the week. Didn't have any fist fights this time, but we got a guy to drink someone else's Nuka Cola, made a lady pick a guy's pocket and keep his wallet, and actually had a guy just pissing his pants without a care in the world. This is premium stuff. I think I'll send this tape and the frequency we're using to headquarters. They can analyse it further. So yeah, he was kind of like, this seems kind of questionable. I'm not too sure about it. I never noticed that before. We're all in this together. Must win, US. Yeah. I mean, you probably would go a bit nuts if you were stuck with all this Vault-Tec propaganda all day, every day as well. So, experiment 4. Theta radiation. So, we tried theta radiation in the reactor area and observed the results it had on the visitors. Unlike standard ionising radiation, theta isn't supposed to have any lasting physical effects and works instantly. It's been quite a chore keeping up with doctors' reports and aftercare, sometimes months after the visitor left the park, so this will be a welcome change. I'll climb into the chamber tonight and change out the core dampener myself just to make certain it's done to Dr. Bateman's specifications. So presumably it seems that they were trying out ionising radiation before, which, you know, isn't going to go well. So let's see, at low levels theta radiation is having the exact effects. People are getting tired, getting dizzy, looking a bit lost and slurring. It seems to last for about 5 minutes. And send all the data to Vault-Tec. Not really getting any new data points, it's getting boring. With Dr. Bateman breathing down my neck, I can't do anything recreational. I'm literally staring at the same readouts for hours at a time. I was okay with it at first, but now it's starting to get to me. I wish Dr. Bateman would allow me to dial up the theta radiation, but he says we need long-term observation at a constant level. I don't get why I can't mess with the settings. Hell, even Langston, who sits right behind me, gets to mess around with the holotapes and try out different things. Oh well. So he's like, yeah, this is boring because we're not changing anything, we're not doing anything different. So, next log. Dr. Bateman woke me up from a nap I was having at my console and yelled at me for falling asleep on the job. Couldn't even remember falling asleep. Then it sort of hit me. I mean, what if Dr. Bateman piped the theta radiation in here too? I'd be a perfect long-term subject, right? I spend the better part of an hour tearing open all of the maintenance panels in the place, but I can't find out how he's doing it. If he's doing it, just the thought of it's really starting to piss me off. So there's definitely some paranoia sneaking in at this point for old Grunner here. I've had enough of this crap. I don't know if Langston is messing with me or Bateman is messing with me or both of them are, but I feel like I'm one of the visitors to the exhibit and someone else is watching me. Well, guess what? I'm locking the doors to this place and nobody's going to come in here. If I have to spend the rest of October in here all by myself, then so be it. And if Bateman tries to override to open the doors, I've got a sweet 10mm pistol in my hand just waiting to be fired. So yeah, he's gone from 0 to 100 very quickly here. He's just extremely paranoid. He thinks that his colleagues are messing with him, and he's probably not wrong. But he's just like, yeah, I'm going to lock the door, and if Bateman tries to get in here, then I'm going to shoot him, basically. And then the last one. I don't know if I'm paranoid, a victim of my own experimentation, or what the hell is going on. Langston ran in here screaming something about bombs falling in to seal the vault. He kept yelling and screaming and the sound was making my head split. I couldn't take it anymore, so I shot him. I shot him dead. Tried to leave the control room, but we're locked in. Or are we locked in? I don't know what's real anymore and what isn't. My head hurts all of the time. I keep getting dizzy. I keep falling asleep. Is the world gone? Was Langston lying or telling the truth? I don't know what to do. Maybe it's time I put an end to this. I think I know what I have to do. So that's quite a unnerving ending to his log there, especially given that he is sitting in this chair with a 10mm pistol under his hand. So this presumably was that guy, and then this is a guy screaming about the bombs, and yeah, so we can definitely glean from that they were obviously using the experiments on their own people as well, because obviously who makes better long-term test subjects than your own employees? Got all the sprayers.
Vault-Tec's cutting-edge science and technology
Science lab.
Resources to face a thrilling new adventure awaits. Imagine hundreds of copies.
I mean, even when if it wasn't just rusty, it's not the most, yeah, a planet diorama here. And a dead trader. And some more creepy mannequins. Yep. Imagine a future among the stars, imagine Vault-Tec. And then they've got sales associates planted right at the end. For if anybody wanted to sign up. So yeah, that's the thing about old Vault-Tec is doesn't really matter if you're a customer or an employee. They're still gonna treat you like crap. Really. So here we go. Sales desk, sales instructions. Hello, Vault-Tec sales associate. As people exit the Vault-Tec Among the Stars exhibit, you'll be responsible for taking visitors aside and converting them to potential applicants. Even if they seem interested, remember that the applicant will have many questions but very little time on their hands. How can you ensure you're prepared to step them through our sales process in a quick and accurate manner? Simple. Remember the 3 I's: introduction, initiation, and information. Initiation. Okay. So, you know, is that a cult? No, if any of the applicants appear to be ill or acting in a strange manner, be certain to report this to a sales supervisor immediately. And so sales supervisors, secret scientists probably. So step 1, introduction. First and foremost, greet the applicant with a hearty handshake and a warm smile. Perhaps tell a light, clean joke to make them laugh, or a pleasant compliment about their appearance. Ask them if they want something to drink or offer them a snack. Check how they're feeling and gauge their mood. Make them feel like they're already home and part of the Vault-Tec family. Studies show beginning with this approach increases the chance of a sale by over 28%. It's your typical cringy training. So, when you feel like you've gained their confidence, explain the benefits of life within a vault using the information from our Better Living Underground packet. If they still appear hesitant, don't pester them or give them the hard sell. Our studies show that this over-aggressive approach usually turns the applicants off and they become unwilling to listen to anything you have to say. For the overly sceptical applicant, or if you need something to tip the scales, if you think the applicant is undecided, we suggest letting them glance through the history of radiation burns or the mutations it could happen to you brochures. So just straight up scare tactics, like, yeah, if you're really in doubt about these fallout shelters, maybe you should see how horrible radiation burns are. Lovely. So initiation, I mean, yeah. Then integration. So you finally convince the applicant to sign. Good job. Now it's time to step through the quick and painless application process. Pull the following forms from the new applicant's file: GZ089 Health Form, TR17 Liability Waiver, LM222 Last Will and Testament Form, DB104 Vault-Tec Citizenship Agreement, XM003 Organ Donation Invoice, Psychological Evaluation Screening, Intimate Relations Conduct Agreement, Rights Revocation Charter, the Family History Form. Have the applicant fill these out in quintuplicate, so 5 copies of all these forms. That's going to be a quick and painless application process. Geez, oh. File the daffodil coloured copy in the corporate bin, file the lemon coloured copy in the local bin, the canary coloured copy in the medical bin, the gold coloured copy in the insurance bin. and present the yellow copy to the applicant. Do not place the wrong copy in the wrong bins, or the process will need to be repeated. So yeah, super easy. So there's like, how many forms was that? Let me check that again, just in case you're wondering. Right, yeah. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's 9 forms that have to be filled out 5 times, and each is just a slightly different shade of yellow, but you have to make sure that you've got the right shade of yellow in the right bin, or you have to start again. So it's just yeah, sounds great. So that's obviously a piece of cake. There's a sheet of paper there. Is that, do you think that's more canary or daffodil? Oh yeah, I see you've got 4. Oh, there's keys. Yeah, you've got the 4 bins there, and then obviously the applicant gets the yellow one. Jesus. But this, I mean, this is the kind of thing. This is the what you see with these corporations all the time. And this game is just stuff like that. Like, there's notes, I think. I can't remember where I saw it. It was quite recently, actually, when I was playing. There was notes on a terminal about reducing the allowed time in the bathroom from 2 minutes and 34 seconds to like 2 minutes and 3 seconds or something.
Upper level.
That's just the way out. So, you know, that's interesting that they get to dictate these kinds of things. But yeah, I forgot I'm still winning. Yeah, it's because I was recording some stuff in the Glowing Sea, so obviously didn't want to wear oh yeah, that was from the new update. But yeah, I didn't want to wear. Let's put the fancy sequin dress on. That sounds, yeah, that's much better. Yeah. So there's a brief introduction to Vault-Tec and some of the stuff that we know and the questionable practices. So I say I've tried to kind of avoid spoilers for the TV show for now, but I will be talking about that and about what we see about Vault-Tec and that, because it does answer a few questions and leave us with quite a few more questions. But I think it's really interesting to kind of look at that, because you know, we've seen hints about how Vault-Tec are like, no, we're going to be in charge, and that they're going to monitor remotely the vaults and the experiments and things. And that's one question that I really have, is that, you know, when you're doing science, when you're doing experiments, like, you know, even if you put the ethics of it aside, because obviously nothing that this company does is ethical, we know that, but the whole purpose behind science is to get data to answer questions, which means that there's no point to it if somebody's not collecting the data and then analysing it and using it for something. Like, you know, they need to be, there's no point in just giving people psychoactive drugs or turning them into super mutants, or, you know, cloning Gary over and over and over again. Like, unless you're going to do something with the information that you get from that, it seems kind of pointless. So it's one question that I've had for a long time, is that where is Vault-Tec? Where are the head honchos? You know, where's the CEO, and all the kind of top brass of Vault-Tec? Presumably they've got a good vault somewhere, and it could be that they are sitting and watching everything that's happening, and they're aware of everything that's happened in all the vaults, and they're collecting the data. We don't know, but it seems like a lot. And I mean, the amount of money to build all these vaults and to have everything, it's just, it would just be really, really strange if there wasn't somebody behind the whole thing that's collecting all this data and collecting all these results, and I guess making decisions about it. But I'm going to leave you with that for now, and we'll start working our way through some of the vaults and looking into the details in the next part. So thanks very much for watching. I've been Emmy, and we'll pick this up next time with visiting some of the vaults that we can visit in the game and seeing what kind of shenanigans is happening there. So thanks for watching. Bye.